Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Boring Enterprise Nerds show and tell installation number, I think 3 or 4 at this point. Our exciting guest today is Lars Hvam Petersen, who probably, I think all of you should know. If you don't, then I don't know who you are. Lars, please say hi to our guest. Awesome. And as always, my co-host is Paul Moderman.
Hi guys.
Other better half of the Boring Enterprise Nerds. So since this is show and tell, we will be doing exactly that, showing and telling, and mostly relying on Lars today to do the part. So Lars, you have shared some very interesting blog posts a few months ago on SAP community about using Visual Studio Code with ABAP, using AI tools with that. Please share with our viewers what are you doing in this area, like what's going on.
Yeah, I think lots of boring stuff is going on, so let's just dig into that. Yeah, so I think first of all, I don't really see ABAP as a unique snowflake. Perhaps it is a bit, but it doesn't have to be, right? So I'm trying to again be boring and do ABAP developments the same way that I do developments in other programming languages. So last week I was doing my first few lines of Rust. Not that I liked it particularly much. ABAP is of course better, right? But I just put that into Visual Studio Code. I've done JavaScript and TypeScript. I just put that into Visual Studio Code. I was doing some C developments in Visual Studio Code. So yeah, put it all in Visual Studio Code and do the development there, right? Easy.
Yeah.
No, not so easy, right?
Well, then here comes the but, right? Yeah.
But yeah, so I think as an introduction, like normal development, can I call it normal developments? I don't know.
No, you can call it anything. Well, give you free reign today.
When I started doing more development of different stuff back in the 90s, right? It was just files on a disk, and I did write some code into that and saved it, and then compiled it and run it.
Yep.
So at least the way that I choose to do Visual Studio Code and our programming is having all the ABAP stuff as files on the disk. And then it can be pushed or pulled from disk to Git, from disk to Git. I can switch between branches and everything. And once upon a time, when I do some code that is of proper quality and kind of seems like something I think works, then I might pull it into a real SAP system, so that being the developer edition 1909 or some other things, right?
Right.
And I like your comment about files on the disk, because I also started back in the days when you would get Java book and you would get a compiler, and then you would just use Notepad and write the code and compile it. I did use Visual Studio before it became VSC, like back in the days, and I actually quite like it. SAP GUI after that was a bit of a letdown, but still was a step up from mainframe development. So I think everything is in comparison, maybe perceived differently.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
I think working in a big organization, and big organizations, many of those run SAP, right? There's probably a lot of developers outside the SAP ecosystem in that organization that actually uses this
Yeah.
So let's just get into this and take a look and poke around and see what happens, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. I think first, let me just do a shout out to Marcello that has made this ABAP remote file system extension.
I want to double that shout out, because I have recently used some of the core pieces of this library for myself. So this is like, thank you, Marcello. Huge props.
Yeah. Satisfied customers.
Yeah, satisfied customers.
So this is an approach where Visual Studio Code calls the REST endpoints in the SAP system, so that the files are kind of virtual. So the files as such don't exist on local file system. They're just stimulated by calling REST backend calls. And there is a description here on how to install it and everything. It's good. I, however, used to do a bit more boring or difficult approach, depending on how you see it, right? So searching here for the extensions again, there is this fabulous extension that has the coolest logo, right? This is ABAP standing alone, so it has 2 feet here and
2 legs.
Yep. Yeah.
2 legs and smiling. Yeah. Very, very cool logo. But it kind of includes the extensions, the main extensions that I try to use, right? So just click install, and then installs all these 6 extensions. And whenever there is an update, then Visual Studio Code will help updating these extensions more or less on the fly. So that's one thing here with VS Code. It just keeps updating. Every month there's a new version and some patches, and every day there is some updates to some extensions. Well, everyone gets new updates all the time.
Yeah, I've used over the years, I've used several IDEs, and I've always had like a favorite. I think VS Code has been my favorite of my favorites so far, I think, if I think about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I use Eclipse just because, as you know, you have to these days. But honestly, it was like hate from the first sight, and it hasn't improved much since. I haven't used VS Code before that, but like I said, I used Visual Studio, which VS Code I think kind of is successor of. And I'm looking at the screen. Lars, you mentioned boring. To me, boring is good sometimes, and simple is definitely good. So this screen to me looks simple, uncluttered. By comparison, Eclipse is just very weird collection of, I don't know, buttons, tiny GUI elements. This is also very, very easy to see with my vision, for example. And yeah, I think it's really more friendly in many fronts. So
most importantly, this includes ABAP syntax highlighting, so that's you actually get colors, and then there's this fabulous extension also by me that is analysis. So looking at the syntax and seeing that. But let's just see what happens, right? So I have checked out one of the projects here, and I'll just check out the branch that I'm working on today.
Hey, by the way, what is the application you're using that is showing your typing to us?
This is built into
screencast mode. Oh, awesome!
There is a command to toggle screencast mode, and then so nothing else, right? And then I've done some zooming also as part of the application, just to make sure everything fits on the screen and is readable.
Yeah, that's just awesome.
Because I also just keep pushing some weird buttons here and there, so then you can actually see what I press. Yeah, down here I did some Git commands. I checked out a branch. I'm boring. I use the command line for my Git operations. There are also multiple extensions, and there is a source control Git thing up here. Yeah, that depends on what people like. I'm old. I'm old, as you said, Paul. So I do a command line.
It's called mature professional.
Yeah, mature professionals.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So over here we just have some boring file on the disk, and I can double click those and edit and open those in the editor, right? So here we'll see some classes and everything. And one thing that you actually notice is that I actually hovered this method definition. So it says, this is a method definition. Well, thank you, right? And this is some test data thing, right? So here in VS Code, right, I can actually go and see, find all references. And if we're lucky, now I actually did a where used for this method, pointing me exactly to where this method is called in this place. And again, do note this happens locally on the PC, so no extra calls, no nothing, right? So you're in the train or whatever, it will still work because this all runs locally.
Nice.
So that was the definition. In this case, it's a method call, right? So again, hover to see, well, okay, that's actually a method that has one returning parameter that is an X string. Cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
One other thing that is pretty cool is actually if I open this file here, then there's one point. Here we go. Yeah. So so once upon a time, I was getting quite frustrated because in the new ABAP syntax or the old ABAP syntax, depends, right? There is these inferred places where I can actually say, okay, this just infers the type so that it works with whatever is there. So also you can actually hover this and see, okay, this is actually a type table of something, right? But there's also a way to push a few buttons, so it'll actually put in the type here as a comment kind of thing to actually see, oh, okay, if I have a lot of these in the code, then I can actually see what it actually does.
That's handy. Holy cow, that's handy. I love that.
Yeah, that's also in the linter, right? And that's another thing before we start changing some code, let's see what happens, right? So here we have a local variable, and of course we can just say, okay, let's rename this to okay. Now we have the first few strange things coming up, right? So I clicked F2, rename. And I've actually not seen this feature before because it's been gradually rolling out. So this is actually GitHub Copilot coming into play, and so you want to rename this? It says, oh well, here is some names that it suggests, right? So this could be binary, wasm file, wasm code, wasm binary, or something like. And of course, let's say rename. Yeah. So now I renamed this
beautiful
this variable, right? And whoop, we have something more popping up, stuff happening in the on the screen here. So the way that I've configured my VS Code, I get the problems view directly in the source code. So out here in red, it shows directly the problems in the code. So
that's nice.
By default, it shows it down here, but that's also just an extension, and people can put that and use that how they like, right? So yeah, so
this is why I love doing these. This is why I love doing these show and tells, because I've done, you know, in one form or another, many of the things you're doing here, Lars, but seeing the way that you've configured your editor and that kind of stuff, like even me as one of the hosts here, I'm learning like 10 things right away. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, this is just different stuff that I've collected. I'm sure there's a lot of other more nice stuff out there, and there's thousands of extensions, and these also works with ABAP code. But yeah, so there's some problems popping up here because I've configured static analysis with some rules, and in this project, I've decided that all identifiers should be lowercase. So immediately after renaming this, it shows that finding, right? I can
So
try
so it means that Copilot is oblivious of the rules that you have set up. Is it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You can say it doesn't know, or perhaps it doesn't look at
Hmm.
the rest of the code. I don't know, but let's just see at the other.
So thank you, AI.
Yeah, none of these are actually in lowercase with underscores. So,
Yeah.
which my rest of my code actually is. But yeah, it is what it is. I can just press for this scenario. I can just press save. On save, it runs the formatter in VSCode, and the formatter runs part of the rules. Okay, then we have another finding out here that I'm not using Hungarian notation. Let's not get into that. So let's just quickly change it
No.
back to.
Oh, we
So-
started a religious war.
Oh, some
Let's just change it back to something, right?
clean up aficionados clutching their pearls right now.
But you can also see here that, well, now it's prefixed. Before it was not.
Mhm.
When it becomes that easy to rename something, perhaps if there is a prefix or there's not a prefix, perhaps it's not the most important part of the things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the point is for the teams that want to impose certain I don't know, requirements or certain agreements about naming, that would be the best place to do that, because we had a project I think a couple of years ago where this was checked by their custom ATC checks, and that unfortunately happened very late in the game, almost when we were ready to go to QA, release our transport. Then they run all the
Yikes.
checks and they're like, oh, you did not name your variable, and then you go like, oh crap, now I have to rename the whole bunch of things. Why didn't you tell me before? The editor didn't tell you. The editor was like, okay, works fine. So yeah, if someone wants to do that, then let's do it at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Now we've seen a kind of features here, features there. There's more features everywhere, right? But I think let's just try writing some code. And I'm not really sure what we're gonna write, but we'll write something, and we'll have the AI help us writing it, right?
Perhaps editable ALVs or some kind of Excel download upload. Seems to be popular on the SAP community.
Yeah. Here I'm adding a comment, right? And letting the AI lead the way, right? So I said, start doing, and then it says something with the results. Yes, thank you, dear Mr. AI. That's fine. Good comments here. We'll also not be getting into what is good comments in code and what is bad comments. That's for another episode, right? But I'll just. But you see here, this might actually be somewhat in the direction of where I was going. Start doing something with the results. So I'll just accept that. Okay. Sometimes it's kind of funny, and sometimes it's right on, and sometimes it's not right.
It's funny thing. I have actually written comments similar to that when
I know
you're just running something, and then I just need like yes or no. Like I don't really care about the result it returns. So yeah, that's hits home for me.
Yeah, now I deleted some code, but let's just try to do a bit kind of different. So we have an internal table here, values. I'll typically the way that I've seen, just need to lead it a bit on the way. Sometimes it actually starts making suggestions, but if we start doing something good old school, like reading something, right? Yeah, it says read table, something, index something into something, right? That's actually okay. And again, here it actually suggested everything in lowercase with actually a underscore and stuff, right? Which it didn't up here. It works in mysterious ways. But I'll just save, and then Then it just runs the pretty printer or formatter and
Yep.
Oops. Okay, yeah, this is a good suggestion. So this file that we're editing is a unit test. So read tables, return sub RC, and it is good practice to check the sub RC after reading table, even though that we know there's just one line up with the thing up here, but it's fine. Then it starts casting this to a kind of knows kind of things up there. Then it casts the data to a different thing, which is okay. And then we'll do a hello value get signed so exists. I'm just trying to get it to do something stupid here.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. All you got to do is keep it on the path. It'll get to stupid eventually. That's for sure.
Yeah. So actually, we actually want to do something right, and it leads it keeps leading on the way. Okay, let's just do something to the output and starts doing the end do right. Yeah. So if we go back up here and say get this is good, right? So now it actually I'm leading it in a bad direction.
Get whatever.
Yeah.
Do something and get whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm leading it in a bad direction. So it's just to call this method that for sure doesn't exist in the code. But I'll just go ahead and accept it, right? And click save. But as you see here, then the linter, the static analysis actually kicks in and sees, okay, this method doesn't exist. So it's kind of a synergy, just getting some suggestions, and then static analysis validates that syntax and the variables and such, they actually exist, right? Yeah. So
Lars, have you tried the Copilot chat feature of the?
Not very much.
Okay. I have found that is, for me, in ABAP it hasn't been as helpful as this. In other better represented languages, the chat has been amazing, right? Because if I start from scratch and I just say, give me a thing that does X, it's pretty darn good at doing that as long as it's relatively simple to do. That chat is pretty powerful, but the inline completion is amazing as well.
Yeah, so I'm not using the chat. I'm just disabling that. I'm not really giving it a shot. I'm seeing the way that I use it. It is like a long type ahead suggestion. So when doing a lot of scaffolding, like having a class, we can just do that, right? So if I add another data element to this this class, right? Or attribute, right? Then I'll do another method, get x string. So this is actually now I'm writing a get set method for exactly this one is okay. And then what is the next that I want to also set it, okay? And I want to actually, yeah, this is actually correct, right? I want to import that and method get. I'm just tabbing through this like no tomorrow, right?
Yep.
So here it actually keeps suggesting multiple lines of ABAP code that I don't need to write. So it is, for this example, it's pretty fast, right? Here it also gave a bad suggestion, but I don't really care because that's pretty easy to fix. I have the linter telling, oh, this was bad code. I write bad code all the time. Copilot writes bad code all the time. So
Yeah.
just keep rolling, right? Yeah. So yeah, so that is one part and direction of my development setup here in VS Code, and I try to use this as much as possible. I think there is some use cases where it's pretty good. There's some use cases where it's pretty bad. For this particular project, that is a very standalone project where I have basically all the code and no external dependencies. So it does not show an AOV. It does not read from a sales order table.
Right.
It is just boring computer science stuff, right?
Yeah.
One thing here, working in this setup is the Git setup of it, right? So you have the code in the remote, and then you have your local changes. So I can easily browse through my changes and see what did we actually do right now, and is this in a good state where I want to push this to my remote repository or not. In this case, I think we'll just go ahead and say, let's not
say no, thank you.
Bad changes, right? So of course, we get the AI stuff, and we have the static analysis, but does this really catch all the errors? No, I make a lot of errors all the time, right? So for this particular project, I've set up more stuff, more of everything. And we did see this test class that is here. So this is a ABAP unit test class. What I can actually do in this standalone setup, and there's some more setup stuff, and this is open source project, so you can link this down below, so people can actually see this is real and try it out, right? What I can do is, of course, I can execute the unit tests locally, running here on my local machine. I do like to use kind of the Node ecosystem, so I did put in npm test, but that could be whatever command, and there's also some fancy way to run commands inside VS Code. But again, I'm a command line person, so I just try to do things on command line. But now it actually takes all the ABAP code. This is interesting. Now it takes all the ABAP code and now it starts doing some iteration stuff. So we did see some nice modern ABAP here, like this casting inline.
Yep.
What it's doing now is actually it's downporting the language syntax to 702 syntax automatically. So in a bit, if we're lucky, we can just go in here and find. And actually see that this cast has been automatically replaced with a new variable. And the cast has then been done outside in the old boring syntax, or with a few more statements. So actually, one part of running the unit test here is taking the code and changing it down to 702. After that, it takes the other code and translate that to JavaScript, and then runs the JavaScript. Easy as that.
Beautiful.
So here we did see a lot of unit tests running on my local PC, standalone on this laptop, with it says 16 gigabytes of memory, but I'm not using half of that for this purpose.
There's a question I think that it's going to come to many people's minds. Can you debug your code here?
Yeah, I have one video on YouTube where it's actually possible to debug stuff. I'm not sure that it actually works in my setup. So I can put breakpoints, and sometimes the breakpoints actually works. There is a video that we can link on YouTube.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll find that.
Actually, where you put a breakpoint here in the ABAP code, then you run the JavaScript code, and then you get the breakpoints here in the ABAP source code running locally on your local machine. That's some kind of magic, right?
There's some kind of source mapping thing or something going on there, yeah.
Yeah, so actually you can think of it just like TypeScript. So TypeScript translates to JavaScript, right? So this is just that translates to JavaScript. So it just needs the source mapping files, and then it actually then everything is built in such a way that it kind of works. In this particular project, right, it's doing the downport, and then it takes the downport and makes that into JavaScript. So the source map file is only one step of it. It doesn't include the downport step, but that's just work to be done sometimes.
Nice. So what type of projects, Lars, you're working on lately? What's going on in your life?
This project, this is the project I'm working on. This project is the one I'm working on.
What's the end vision for it? What's it gonna do?
So this was
there you go. Awesome.
This was a project that I started on during the Oktoberfest 2020. But it's now being brought back to life or given the proper attention that it needs. So this is a goal of writing a WebAssembly virtual machine in ABAP.
Interesting.
WebAssembly is kind of assembly language for the web, right? So I did mention Rust. So a Rust application compiles to WebAssembly. So it's kind of a low-level language that can be executed anywhere. Executing it on ABAP will probably be very slow. Because it being assembly is low level, so it has to execute a lot of instructions. But I think even though it might be very slow, then there might be use cases where it's actually useful. A thing with this is that WebAssembly as such comes with a lot of test cases. So I have 15,000 test cases passing and 12,000 to go. I want to support everything according to the official test suite. But it's all fun and games, and
that is fun because down at the WASM layer, now you're opening the gates to like all of the other languages that support like back and forth, right? So yeah, I see the eyebrows.
Yeah. Yeah, and we saw ABAP that runs in JavaScript, and you can run JavaScript in WebAssembly. So that means that you can run ABAP in ABAP. Yeah.
Yeah, you could like stack that on top of itself over and over again, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and here we do see a bit more of the development flow as such. So pushing the changes to GitHub in this case, and then I get my results back. So I can see with this change, there's one more test case in this test file that succeeds, and with this change overall, there is 232 test cases that now passes, right? And yeah, I just keep pushing a lot of commits and then get the feedback immediately, or well, after some time, if this is a good direction that it's moving in, or a wrong direction, because I simply have an expectation. Is this something that will make more things work, or is this something that will make more things break? Sometimes you have to break things to fix things.
Awesome.
Lars, I actually have a random question. Well, maybe it's not random, but it might branch our discussion ever so slightly. So, like I said before, all of us on the call are kind of old fogey, old people in the ABAP world a little bit, a decade or more of experience. If I was like a totally fresh, just like off the street, ready to go, like, and I was like, I see what the kind of stuff Lars is doing, and I want to go and do that stuff, but I have I don't have any of the skills yet. Like, what's your prescription on the path to like move toward this kind of stuff in the ABAP space? Skill wise, tools wise, like what's your prescription of that thing?
Yeah, it depends, right? So I like to take so moving into, so this was kind of a crazy idea back then, right?
Yeah.
But it actually, I think there is some use cases, and yeah, so implementing different protocols of whatever, implementing a WebAssembly standard that is 30,000 test cases and God knows how many pages of specification. Well, yeah, just jump into it. Do something where you actually know part of it, right? So and know part of it and take part of it that you don't know, right? So for this WebAssembly project, I know ABAP as a program. I messed around a lot with binary representations of little engine and big engine, and that's actually a lot of work in this project. But I've done that many times, right? But I didn't know. Still don't know any WebAssembly.
Right.
But now I actually get to know a bit of it day by day. So yeah, take something you know and combine it with something that you don't know, and then you'll have one foot on the safe path and one foot moving forward.
Okay. I like that. Actually, I like that. Like, Elena, we should just like, because the whole video is great, but like we should snip that and send it to like the young folks of like 1 foot on solid ground, 1 foot on a muddy path, and like walk that way, right?
Yeah.
I should change the logo of the standalone ABAP so it has one of the feet on the good path and then one in the mud.
Nice speech, Lars.
Yeah.
It's funny. I saw a funny picture the other day floating somewhere on social media. I might find it, insert it in the video, where it's like one of those quick comics type of drawing where the young person is like, oh, I want to get into coding, but I don't know how to start. And then there is a big hand of assumingly experienced developers. They just push them towards the keyboard and then just like sit down and just write something, and then like showing thumbs up, like so you just sit down and code literally.
But that's also something that's kind of the same thing with the different steps, right? So if you want to get into programming and development, right, then start implementing something that you know. I don't know. So of course everyone knows Fibonacci numbers, right? So try making Fibonacci numbers because everyone knows Fibonacci.
That's the first like that totally tracks, because the first real program I ever wrote was I took something I knew how to play Sudoku, and I didn't know how to program my way out of wet paper bag. And I was like, but like, I know that I'm following, when I play this game, I'm following rules. I know I'm following like check this row, check this whatever. I'm following rules and do that. There must be a way to do that. And then I just force myself to sit in front of the Excel like Visual Basic editor and like stare my brains out until I had a thing that worked. It was terrible. I'm sure it's terrible. It's very terrible. But it was exactly that. It was like I knew Sudoku, I knew the rules, I knew how to play, and I branched into like, so how do I represent when I take this thought step of like compare the row and compare the column and compare the group with that, like that was my first foray was exactly that. And it matches that template. That's
But then you started Sudoku before it got popular, if you say Visual Basic, or
this was like 2003 or something like that, 2002, something like that. So it had just become like a thing. And like my girlfriend, who's now my wife, she was playing it all the time in the newspaper. And I was like, oh, I get that. And then I played it twice and I was like, yeah, but aren't you bored now? You know how it works. Like, what is it? So then I was like, oh, well, if I want to make something that solves it rather than just solve it over and over again, right? And it took me a long time because I didn't know what I was doing, but I had that, like, I had the idea and I had the thing that I did know, and then I branched into some other thing, right? So, yeah.
We did discuss Hungarian notation a bit today, but I need to confess that I've spent a lot of time doing Visual Basic.
And that,
yeah, I think that's one thing at least we'll have in common.
Yeah.
Yes. Visual Basic poisons everyone.
Well, I think with Visual Basic, I'm a visual person, so actually seeing something like you saw the green check marks. So I like to see, okay, is this good or bad? I need to see a green box telling me that it's good. In Visual Basic, I could actually draw boxes, a bit like the screen painter. Write boxes and then put a few some code behind it. So it's very easy to just get running.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So I want to make sure to mention ABAP Git, Lars, which is your, I think, piece de resistance, the most well-known open source project that got tremendous adoption over the years. It's going to have anniversary, I think, this summer. I'm curious, like, first of all, what compelled you to create it, and second, did you ever expect it to kind of blow up the way it did? So, like, talk to us about the beginning of ABAP Git.
Yeah, I think there's multiple videos out there on the internet, but short story is desperation.
Oh, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. When you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
everyone, again, nothing of this, like doing ABAP code in VSCode is not a novel idea. It's just doing whatever other people is doing. Putting code on GitHub, that's not a novel idea. It is just doing whatever all the other people are doing. Having a WebAssembly runtime, well, that everyone else has that. I want everything just like the cool kids has, right? So I want a proper Git client so I can easily share my code, so I don't need to copy paste things manually from a system into another system, right? Just do it. And yeah, it was a lot of work. I learned a lot about the Git protocol and ABAP as a programming language and such. And yeah, nowadays there's a lot of great community members that is contributing, and lots of people, new people every day. I think today we had multiple new people opening issues, and Mark does a lot of work helping out. I would think you actually might have been doing more lately. I always get off track doing doubtful implementations of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that approach, when you like need something but it's not there, you just I'll just make my own. It surprisingly works a lot of times. Awesome. So Lars, anything else that you would like to promote other than multitude of open source projects that we mentioned already here? Anything else?
Yeah, so getting started with ABAP, right? So we did see the compiling to JavaScript and so on. There is this nice homepage called Exercism.
Hmm.
You can see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in here on Exercism to learn a lot of different programming languages. So there's 67
Ballerina. Yeah.
languages.
Wow.
And there is the ABAP track, so you actually get some real exercises with a description. So you can understand the description, and then the task is to actually implement it. I think these might be smaller exercises than the Sudoku exercise, but I'm sure some of the languages also have some Sudoku exercises that can be implemented. But yeah, it's just one-click setup, and then you can start writing some ABAP code.
Yeah.
And learn it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
And remember, we're not doing this because it's easy. We're doing this because we thought it was easy.
That's one of my favorite things to say about that.
And then by the time you realize it's not easy, you're already way too far gone.
You're too far down the path, yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes I just need to finish stuff. I need to get this out of my head and get this working or not working. Just get some kind of result out.
Awesome. That's just a story of developer life, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're anything else that Paul, anything that you would like to add?
Nope. I am satisfied with the content.
Yes. I think we're really good. So Lars, we're really grateful for you to sharing this with us today. I think VSCode is great. I mean, I'm liking this environment a lot. So I will try some of what you're doing, and hopefully, I don't know, keeping fingers crossed, maybe SAP will adopt it one day. Yes, please, Lars.
And yeah, so we saw VSCode, right? But I think let the developer choose what the developer wants to develop in, right? So if that is SE80, fine by me. If that is Notepad, fine by me. Just let the developer choose and decide what the developer likes, right? Notepad can be good, like the Visual Basic editor was also okay, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And actually, when SAP introduced Eclipse and ADT, I think myself and many other people kind of thought that there might be a path to like bring your own IDE at some point, but unfortunately, SAP, I guess, like in our story, just got way too deep into Eclipse woods, and it was too late to go back. So now they seem to be firmly bought into that universe. But if we can help it, it doesn't mean that we have to, all of us have to follow that path. So hopefully many different paths exist. And I totally with you, Lars. It's like whatever tool works for you, as long as you produce code that is good, it doesn't matter, whatever you find more convenient. So yeah, awesome. So perfect. All right. So on that note, thank you again, Lars, for showing and telling today. And thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.